Welcome to the Virginia Tech Intramural Freshman 5-on-5 basketball preseason presentation. We're excited for you to be joining us this fall, and we'd like to make sure that you have the information that will make you and your team successful. In this presentation today, we will explain captain's responsibilities, policies and procedures, basketball rules, and more. We would like to thank Fox Ridge Apartment Homes as our sponsor for their generous contribution in making sure that we deck out all of our intramural sports champions in the fabulous Intramural Sports Championship t-shirts. Captains, it is your responsibility to share the information presented in this video with your teammates. Things like roster management, player eligibility, getting teammates to the court and checked in on time, calling any protests if warranted, team and spectator sportsmanship, and informing teammates of all the intramural sports policies and game rules for 5-on-5 basketball. Resources can be found on the website at recsports.vt.edu. Game time. For intramural 5-on-5 basketball, you will need 4 players to start a game. Teams with fewer than 4 players have a 10-minute grace period to get enough players checked in and on the court ready to play. All players must have an intramural full membership and be added to the team roster in advance. You may also add players to the roster before the games begin. All players must be checked in with intramural sports staff and show their Hokie passport. All players must show up early to start your game on time. As just mentioned, in order to start a 5-on-5 basketball game, 4 players are needed to be checked in on the court ready to play at game time. If for some reason your team does not have the minimum of 4 players checked in and ready to play at game time, a 10-minute grace period will be allowed. The scorekeeper will put on the game time clock and it will continue to run through that 10-minute grace period. If you do not have your teammates checked in and a minimum of 4 players when that grace period ends, teams without the required number will forfeit the game. Once that grace period starts, a team with fewer than 4 players must start the game down at 19-0 in the men's or women's game. A double forfeit is called if neither team has enough players. Moving on to rosters. There are a few roster restrictions for 5-on-5 basketball. First, varsity basketball athletes may not play intramural basketball. Second, only 3 varsity non-basketball athletes are allowed on any team. Third, only 3 club basketball players are eligible on a team. And fourth, former and current professional athletes are ineligible to participate in intramural sports. If you believe a team has an ineligible player, you may file a protest with the intramural sports supervisor on duty. We hope that you work with your team and the intramural sports staff to keep your rosters updated and your players eligible for the season. There is no game limit to set your team roster. Players may be added the entire season, including during playoffs. Players may be added to the roster online on IMfusion before or when they check in for the game. If you would like to add teammates to your roster prior to game times, you can log into IMfusion, click on your roster, and invite players. The intramural membership must be purchased for all individuals participating in intramural sports prior to registering a player to your roster. Players may only play on one men's or one women's team. Players are locked on a roster 3 weeks after the season begins, and they may not be removed to be added to another team after that 3rd week of games. Protests. There are 2 types of protests that intramural sports participants can utilize. One is for ineligible players. The second is for rule misapplication. If you suspect there is an ineligible player playing on 1 or more teams, you may file a protest at any time throughout the season with the sports supervisor. They will look into the situation with the details that you provide. The second, which is rule misapplication, must be made prior to the restart of a play. So what this means is that if you are going through the game and you feel that the official misinterpreted one of the rules, You must immediately ask for the official to stop the game so that you may file a protest regarding that rule misapplication. A sports supervisor will be called onto the court for you to plead your case about the rule misapplication, and they will look into the situation immediately. If you want to file a formal protest, they may be submitted in 135 War Memorial Hall by 12 p.m. the next day, and a $10 protest fee must be paid at that time as well. If it is found that the protest is correct, the fee is refunded. If it is found incorrect, that $10 fee is lost. Sportsmanship. As stated in the Intramural Sports Mission Statement, our purpose is to provide exercise, recreation, and fun for our participants in a relaxed yet structured environment. Therefore, a team sportsmanship rating system has been developed to encourage proper sporting behavior during all intramural sports contests. Throughout round-robin play in your leagues, teams must have a minimum average sportsmanship rating of a 3.0 on a 5-point scale in order to be eligible for playoffs. Teams that receive below a 3.0 average for any game during the regular season may be required to meet with the intramural sports coordinator or the graduate assistants to be eligible for the next contest. If a game is not completed due to any sportsmanship-related incidents, the sportsmanship rating earned will stand regardless of whether or not the game is official. During playoffs, teams must have a sportsmanship average of 3.0 or better in each game in order to advance. If a team receives below a 3.0 average in any of the playoff games, the team will be removed from the playoffs and may be replaced by the opposing team. If neither team receives a 3.0 rating, both teams will be removed from playoffs. After each game, teams are given a sportsmanship rating by the game officials, scorekeeper, and sports supervisor. There is a 5-point rating scale from excellent sportsmanship being a 5, 4 is good sportsmanship, 3 is average, 2 is poor, 1 unacceptable, and a 0 means the team is disqualified and they forfeit the game. This next section will focus on freshman 5-on-5 basketball rules. Basketball is played with 2 teams of 5 players. You can start with a minimum of 4 players, and all of the participants on your team roster must have freshman status. Basketball is played with 2 20-minute halves with a running clock, except in the last 30 seconds of the first half and the last 2 minutes of the second half. So once the game clock begins, it is not stopped during that half until 30 seconds in the first half from the end of the game and the last 2 minutes of the second half of the game. There is one 30-second timeout allowed each half by each team. The regular season games may end in a tie. In playoffs, there will not be a tie, and games will go into overtime until there is a determined winner. Overtime rules are posted online. The game of basketball begins with jump ball at center court. The team not winning the jump ball at the beginning of the game will gain possession of the ball at the next jump ball. Alternating possession arrows will continue for the rest of the game. When the ball is out of bounds, the team not responsible for that violation gets the spot to throw in. Substitutes for other players may only be made during dead ball situations. Those occur when there is a violation, out of bounds, fouls, and specifically for fouls, when a free throw is awarded, the substitution occurs prior to the last awarded free throw. Players may not enter the game until the referee calls them into the game. All fouls count towards the team foul count in each half. On and after the 7th foul, a 1-and-1 bonus will be awarded, except for during team control fouls. There will not be a double bonus. Prior to the 7th foul and team control fouls, the opposing team will receive possession of the ball. For shooting fouls, a made basket will include 1 free throw. A missed basket will result in 2 or 3 free throws. 2 free throws for a 2-point shot,
or 3 free throws for a 3-point shot.
During a free throw situation, the free throw shooter has 10 seconds to attempt the shot. Players may leave the lane space once the ball is released by the free thrower. The free throw shooter and the players outside the 3-point line must wait until the ball hits the rim in order to try to gain possession of the ball. The bottom lane space is taken up by the defense, and that is required. The second space may be occupied by the offensive player as a priority. The third space is given priority to the defense. A maximum of 4 defensive players and 2 offensive players may hold spaces within the lanes. The spot below the block will remain unoccupied by either team. If an intentional, flagrant, or technical foul occurs during the game, 2 points will be awarded to the non-violating team, as well as possession of the ball. The ball will be placed at midcourt for a technical foul, and for an intentional or a flagrant foul, the ball will be spotted at the spot of the foul. Types of technical fouls include dunking prior to, at halftime, or after the game, hanging on the rim during the game, unsportsmanlike behavior, continued delay of game, or wearing jewelry. If a player receives 2 technical fouls during the game, they will automatically be ejected from play. In order to minimize frustration and increase tensions when one team is dominating another by a large margin of points, we have established the mercy rule. So in the final 2 minutes of the game or less, if one team is up by a differential of more than 19 points, the mercy rule will be called and the game will end at that point. The final score will be recorded at that time that the mercy rule is called. Any rules that were not covered in this presentation are covered by the National Federation of High Schools. This next section deals with game sites and personal and intramural sports equipment. All freshman 5-on-5 basketball games are played in War Memorial Hall. You may choose to check out basketballs before the game is played for warm-ups. If captains decide that they do not want to use an intramural sports ball for that game, both teams must agree to whatever ball will be used in gameplay. All personal jewelry must be removed prior to play. Any medical alert jewelry may be shown to a sports supervisor and then secured with tape over that jewelry so that it is not visible and not in any way going to harm yourself or any other player participating. If an individual has religious jewelry, that jewelry must be pre-approved in the intramural sports office prior to game participation in order for that player to wear religious jewelry during the game. All sports supervisors will be notified if the jewelry was approved for a participant to wear during games. That jewelry must also be taped so that it is secure and not going to be in danger to any players. All individuals and teams must have a white jersey and a dark colored jersey. Any team without enough jerseys to play will forfeit the game. Intramural sports does not provide jerseys or shirts for participants, so all players are responsible for providing their own white jersey and dark colored jersey. Dark colored jerseys must be of a similar shade of color across the team. For example, if a team wanted to wear blue, they would all have to have the same shade of blue, as in all navy blue, all royal blue, or all Columbia blue. They cannot be different shades of blue on different members of the team. Opposing teams must wear different colors. Captains will determine who will wear the alternate color. If no agreement can be made, there will be a forfeit for both teams. All participants' white and dark colored jerseys must have numbers. They must be 1 or 2 digit whole numbers and distinct for each team member. Tape is not allowed on any jerseys. Please use a Magnum Sharpie for white jerseys and a white paint marker for dark colored jerseys. Game status as it relates to weather and playing conditions is determined by 4 o'clock p.m. daily by the intramural sports staff. If games are canceled prior to 4 o'clock p.m., the intramural sports staff will notify team captains. After 4 o'clock p.m., game status is determined hourly. For the most current game status, participants are encouraged to follow the Intramural Sports Twitter and Facebook page. Twitter is at VT Intramurals. Our Facebook page is Virginia Tech Intramural Sports. Our website is recsports.bt.edu/intramurals. You may also call our weather hotline at 540-231-6060. Unless circumstances permit, games canceled during regular season play are not rescheduled. If games are rescheduled, team captains will be notified and the game changes will be visible in the My Team section of your Fusion IM portal. All playoff games postponed or suspended due to inclement weather will be rescheduled and teams will be notified as soon as possible. We realize that this presentation does not cover every individual policy, procedure, or sport rule for basketball. So if you still have questions after this presentation is over, you may visit recsports.bt.edu/intramurals/policies. You may also email us at imsports@bt.edu, call us at 540-231-8297, or you may stop in our office at 135 War Memorial Hall. We look forward to working with you this intramural sports season. We want to thank you for your interest and participation in our Virginia Tech Intramural Sports Program. We wish you luck, have a great season, and thank you for helping to make our intramural sports program one of the finest in the country. Please also visit any of our sponsors, Domino's Pizza, PK's Bar and Grill, or Fox Ridge Apartment Homes. Thank you and have a great year.